Hey everyone, it's Lockhart QT. I know it's been a while, but we actually have some Mass Effect news. I know it's absolutely shocking. How dare they? But we actually have some Mass Effect news straight from the horse's mouth, BioWare themselves. So if you want some more news on BioWare, Mass Effect, and anything else coming out of the gaming space, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more information. And without further ado, without long-awaited breath, let's get right into it. And recently, Michael Gamble's gone on Twitter, as well as in a few interviews and whatnot with content creators and different news outlets, to suggest that Mass Effect 5, which is obviously what I'm calling it now, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of contention between if it's called Mass Effect 5, Mass Effect 4, Andromeda 2, Electric Boogaloo, God knows what the next game is going to be called, but for this purpose of this video, I'll be calling it Mass Effect 5. He suggested that the next game is in very good hands. So if you don't know at this point, Michael Gamble is the project director for the upcoming sequel, and he has actually confirmed how many people in the overall leadership team worked on the original trilogy, as there was a lot of confusion. Obviously recently the EA have had tons of layoffs, and BioWare have had 2 rounds of layoffs in the past 12 months. One was quite significant, where they got rid of a lot of people, primarily from the Dragon Age team, who had been there since, Dragon Age Origins and beyond. So it's quite nice to hear that BioWare still have some people, that worked on the original trilogy. And back in 2020 and 2021, they also announced that, quite a few more veterans were working on the team. So, there are still quite a number of people working on the next game that, worked on the original trilogy and Andromeda. So that's nice to hear indeed. And I know I'm a little late on this, I do apologise, but over the weekend, Michael Gamble, who's obviously been a part of the Mass Effect series since 2010, cleared up some confusion amongst fans, and obviously it began with one BioWare fan on Twitter saying that they were under the impression that the Mass Effect leadership team, is mostly new people. I mean, that's, a safe assumption to make, because a lot of the original people and obviously founders and co-founders at BioWare have now left, so a lot of people are worried, because obviously Anthem completely died as a live service, and Andromeda was a bit of a mixed bag. So a lot of old, trilogy fans, people that have been there since the original Mass Effect, are quite noticeably a bit worried here. So it's nice to see that BioWare are coming in sort of reassuring people. But obviously with all of these allegations that people, are making, Gamble himself stepped into the equation to straighten things out over on Twitter. In his reply, Gamble revealed that the executive producer, which is obviously himself, the art director, creative director, and game director are all trilogy veterans. All 4 developers that I've just named will be on screen right now. The developer's reply obviously was straight to the point. It was a bit blunt. BioWare are probably a bit fed up at this point of people, going at them, but at the end of the day, I can see why people are very confused, as BioWare have been very tight-lipped on the next Mass Effect game. We don't even know where it's set in the timeline, we don't know which galaxy it's in, and, we don't really know what's going on with the next Mass Effect game. In fact, it's at the point where we don't even know if it's a third-person shooter, which obviously I know, let's be honest, it probably is going to be, but, that's the point I'm trying to make. We don't know much about the next game. But where does that leave the next game going forward? Well, obviously last month EA came out to sort of reiterate the same point that they've been making for nearly 4 years now, which is that Mass Effect 5 is still in pre-production. So if you don't know what that means, obviously you've got pre-production, which is sort of, the team is writing together the story, they're getting a loose concept for the game, and then the game goes into full production, then it goes into alpha testing, beta testing, and then obviously it goes gold, and then the game releases, and then it gets, some pre-launch bug fixes and whatnot. So BioWare are still on the first step, essentially, the first step in the development cycle, suggesting that the game is a whiles off. And obviously we've heard from several sources that the game is, looking like it could be 2027, 2028 and 2029, which is, a bit disconcerting as a BioWare Mass Effect fan, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Now, the reason that Mass Effect 5 is still a ways off is because obviously BioWare are focusing most of their efforts on Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which, again, could very well launch this year. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with that, as we know that the game is being revealed in the summertime with full gameplay, and it's probably going to have like a playable demo at bioware. As last year they did mention that the game was playable start to finish, and I imagine this year is sort of ironing out things and refining things and just making the game fully playable and to a point where it's completed. And essentially this has seemingly been the case for some time now. And in terms of going back to Mass Effect very shortly, we know it's a ways off. I mean, there's a few news articles that came out recently that apparently inside sources, which is, I'm using very loosely in quotation marks here, apparently are suggesting that the game is being developed internally, or it's being suggested that they are looking at developing it for the PlayStation 6 and whatever the next Xbox console is and PC, which is quite funny. I mean, you guys have to, think about that. The game, I think, was announced, 1 month after the PS5 launched? So the fact that it's going to miss an entire console generation is going to be very interesting indeed. And obviously before all of these updates, the studio celebrated N7 Day back in 2023, which in my opinion is probably what we got, the most substantial amount of evidence and, I'd say, CGI footage. We got a short teaser trailer. If you want to go on the channel, I've got a whole playlist of pretty much every video I've done regarding the next Mass Effect game, as well as I've gone over all of the trailers, concept art, leaks, rumours in depth. So if you guys want to go check those out, that'll be on screen now as well as in the description. And obviously we're at a point now as fans where we're not really getting substantial information, so a lot of us are speculating. I mean, I've made a video on if, a shadow in a concept art is the Normandy, for crying out loud. It's Mass Effect in terms of marketing and speculation is at a very weird point right now, but we're just going to have to wait and see what BioWare does at the sequel. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for watching this ranty video today, and tell me in the comments below, what do you think about the fact that the next Mass Effect game is supposedly in good hands, and will have 4 BioWare veterans working on it? So tell me in the comments below, do you think that the next Mass Effect game is going to be good? Again, we'll have to wait and see. And for more Mass Effect, BioWare, and just straight up RPG goodness, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.